Today's video is going to be the first mods focused video that I've ever done on this channel, so if you enjoy this content, let me know below and I will be sure to do some more. For this one, we're going to be taking a look at the expanded Warlock mod created by KG Boy over on nexusmods.com. This mod gives players access to the Hexblade, Archfey, and Celestial subclasses for the Warlock. It also adds the Pact of the Blade and the Pact of the Tome for Pact Boons, more spells, additional cantrips, visually customized Eldritch blasts, and unique Warlock starting equipment. I am really impressed with this mod. It seems like it's really well done and it works great, at least as of now on patch 6, so be sure to go check out this mod and give KG Boy your support. As always, if you want to help support the channel and you like using the GOG store, consider using my affiliate link below before you make your game purchases. Let's jump right in. In the video description, I will include links to the mods that I use and also a link to a really easy to follow YouTube guide that shows you one of the ways you can go about installing Baldur's Gate 3 mods. As a mod noob myself, this particular video by MMO Girl made things very easy. The first thing that you might notice is that my character is not exactly alive, and the reason is that I'm running another mod called the Customizer's Compendium 5th Edition by Elena or Alana, but more on that in a future mod video. This goes great with the Warlock class. So on to the Warlock. As you guys can see, we already had access to the Fiend and the Great Old One, but now we also have the Hexblade, the Archfey, and the Celestial Warlock. We'll start off with the Archfey because the Archfey is most likely going to be in the game on launch. With the Celestial and the Hexblade, we're not really sure if Larian will include those subclasses. So with the Archfey, your patron is a lord or lady of the Fey, a creature of legend who holds secrets that were forgotten before the mortal races were born. And with every subclass choice for the Warlock, you get an extended list of spells to choose from that are subclass specific. And right away at level 1, as an Archfey Warlock, you get access to Fairy Fire and Sleep. These are not new spells. You will see new spells later on at level 3 with this subclass. But at level 1, you don't get any new spells with this subclass. You do get new cantrips, however. And the cantrip list is greatly expanded from before. As you can see, we have all of the previous ones, especially Eldritch Blast, but we also have Thunderclap, which is a small AoE attack that will deal up to 1d6 thunder damage if your enemies fail a Constitution saving throw. So not really that strong, but if you have a bunch of low HP enemies around you that are really close to you, this could do some decent damage. And next we have Toll the Dead, the highly requested cantrip for the cleric class, because the cleric doesn't have many good cantrips right now. This is actually a really good cantrip and it looks pretty sweet with this mod. So this cantrip deals 1d8 necrotic damage, but if you use it on a target that doesn't have full HP, it can deal up to 1d12. Next we have Mind Sliver, which deals 1d6 psychic damage, which is kind of low damage, but it also has the added effect of making that target have to subtract 1d4 from the next saving throw that they make. So this cantrip can be a really good combination cantrip to use if you know that another character is going to use a spell that requires the enemy to do a saving throw. You might as well use Mind Sliver, deal a little bit of damage, and then basically almost guarantee that the next spell on that target is going to actually be successful. Then we have Lightning Lure, which looks phenomenal with this mod, and this is basically a lightning version of the Druid's Thorn Whip. Lightning Lure deals 1d8 lightning damage, and of course it pulls a target towards you. So if there's a target above you on a ledge, or if you have a little bit of gap on the ground and there's a cliff, you can use this to really take advantage of verticality in this game, dealing massive damage if you can knock an enemy off a high cliff, along with the 1d8 lightning. Next we have Sword Burst, which is similar to Thunderclap. It's just a small AoE cantrip, but you have to do it with targets within 2 meters of you, so it's not really that big of a radius. This will deal 1d6 force damage, and the good thing about force damage is that it's the least resisted in D&D and probably also Baldur's Gate 3, and this basically forces enemies to do a dexterity saving throw, and if they fail, they take 1d6 force damage. Next, we have Frostbite, which is 1d6 cold damage. So once again, really not that high damage, but what Frostbite also does is it causes that target that you hit, if it's successful, to have disadvantage on their next attack roll. So this can be kind of like a defensive and offensive cantrip. You're kind of getting a benefit to both if it actually lands. And then we have Booming Blade, which deals 1d8 thunder damage. But the catch is that it only deals the 1d8 thunder damage if the target willingly moves away from you. So your first strike is actually going to be your normal weapon attack damage. And then if that target decides to move away from you within that round of combat, it will also take another 1d8 thunder damage. So it's kind of situational, and you only want to use it if you know that an enemy is going to probably move away from you, or if you think that that might happen. Then we have Green Flame Blade. Really cool looking cantrip with the green sword. And like Booming Blade, the first attack is your normal weapons attack, but if that attack lands, what you get to do with Green Flame Blade is you get to do another attack on an opponent that's within 5 feet of the first target that you attacked. So you only use Green Flame Blade if you're attacking a target that has another target really close to your initial enemy. And the second attack is free, doesn't cost anything. So you're getting your normal weapons damage on the first target, and then you get to shoot this green flame is the way that this mod does it, and that will deal, what does it say? Fire damage equal to your spellcasting ability modifier. So that would probably be 3 or 4 for most of you guys. Not bad for free damage, I guess you could say. The rest of the cantrips are cantrips that are already in the game, and I'm going to mostly take the new cantrips with my party here so I can demonstrate them. Alright, so now we get to talk about the special subclass feature of the Archfey, which every subclass for the Warlock gets this special feature that doesn't require a spell slot. And for the Archfey Warlock, you get Fey Presence, which is basically an AoE feature that causes any creatures within a 10-foot cube originating from you to make a wisdom saving throw, and if they fail, they'll either be charmed or frightened depending on which one you choose. Now you have a limited amount of Fey Presence charges to use with this subclass, so use it sparingly, I guess you could say, but it does recharge on a short or long rest. And that's it for the Archfey. This subclass, like I said, will most likely, 99% sure, be in the game on the game's official launch. Of course, it might be a little bit different than this mod. Next, we have many players' favorite, including mine, now that I just played it for a little bit, the Hexblade Warlock, which is kind of like a melee-focused warlock that uses magical sentient weapons. Really cool subclass and really powerful. So with the Hexblade, you make your pact with a mysterious entity from the Shadowfell plane. And the Shadowfell plane, we actually got to see in the Baldur's Gate 3 opening cinematic when the Nautiloid plane jumps there. So the Hexblade, we also get access to that extended list of cantrips, the same as the Archfey. Now, a lot of these cantrips aren't from the player's handbook, so I'm not sure if they'll be in the game on official release, but this mod will likely be there, and perhaps Larian will see these mods and see how cool some of these cantrips really are. For the spells, we do get 2 subclass-specific spells, Shield and Wrathful Smite, and both of these spells are not in the game right now. I think Shield will be there, I'm not sure about Wrathful Smite. So with Shield, if you apply it to your character, you basically create an invisible barrier of magical force that will give you a +5 bonus to your armor class on the next attack on you, and it also makes it so that you take no damage from Magic Missile. This is one of the only ways to avoid Magic Missile, which is a spell that doesn't miss. Shield's really good. It's actually a reaction in D&D, and I think it will be a reaction in Baldur's Gate 3 too. They just haven't implemented the reaction system correctly yet, but really good spell. Wrathful Smite inflicts 1d6 psychic damage plus 1 bludgeoning damage. I'm gonna have to check that in the combat log, but you get 1d6 psychic damage on top of your normal weapon damage. So it's kind of like having Hex. You can have Hex with this and deal another 1d6 damage. It's kind of like having Hex or Hunter's Mark additional damage added to your attack, or it's similar to the Paladin's Smite where you get that extra damage. Additionally, Wrathful Smite will also make your target do a wisdom saving throw, and if they fail, they'll be frightened. And this frighten effect can actually last for multiple rounds, but it does cost your concentration. So this is actually a really good one to use. You only have a limited amount of spell slots as a warlock, so you can't do it too many times, but if you have Hex on a target and you walk up and do Wrathful Smite, you're dealing some really good damage on top of possibly frightening your enemy. And the rest of the spells are spells that were already in the game, so we're not going to talk about those in this video. And the special subclass features that you get as a Hexblade Warlock are Hex Warrior and Hexblade's Curse. So Hex Warrior, when you apply it to your weapon, you can now use your Charisma modifier as opposed to using your Strength or Dexterity modifier like all melee weapons typically use. This is really good because you can focus on one ability for your character as your primary ability, and this will apply for melee damage and also your spellcasting damage. So you don't have to try to mix and match your stats up like you might have to with the Paladin, who needs Strength and Charisma separately. So Hex Warrior is really good. You can just apply it right after a long rest and you get that added Charisma as opposed to Dexterity or Strength. I do want to point out that it doesn't work with two-handed weapons, at least not until level 3 when we pick up Pact of the Blade, but I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. Hexblade's Curse is a curse that you can apply to a target. It has a range of 18 meters, and when you curse this target, you're now going to gain a bonus to your damage rolls against that target, which will be equal to your proficiency bonus, so +2 for early access. Also, if the target dies, you regain hit points equal to the combined value of your Warlock level and Charisma modifier. This does not have to be a killing blow from your Warlock. Whenever a target dies that has this curse on them, your Warlock's going to receive a heal automatically. So this is really good, and it only costs a bonus action, so you can use the curse and then also attack with an action, and it doesn't cost a spell slot. You get to use it once per short or long rest. I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but you also get martial weapon proficiency, so you can use any weapon in the game and gain that +2 bonus, and medium armor proficiency, so you can have a higher armor class and fight on the front lines, and also shield proficiency. And with my group, I'm going to have one Hexblade using a two-handed weapon and another one using a sword and shield. Now on to the Celestial subclass for the Warlock. And the Celestial gets their patron from the upper planes, so the morally good planes, and this can be a unicorn, an ancient Empyrean, a solar, a Kirin, whatever the hell that is. And basically you're going to experience the barest touch of the holy light that illuminates the multiverse. Like the other subclasses, you get access to the extended list of cantrips, but for the spells, we get 2 new spells added to our list if we want to take these, and that is Cure Wounds, the up close and personal heal, and Guiding Bolt, the very powerful cleric evocation spell that deals really good damage. Now, we don't have Healing Word, which kind of sucks, but we do get the subclass specific feature called Healing Light, which is basically a different version of Healing Word. So with Healing Light, as a bonus action, like with Healing Word, you can heal one creature that you can see within 60 feet of you, and basically you spend dice from the Healing Light pool, which is represented right here on the screen, and depending on how much you want to heal for, it's going to require more dice. You only have a limited amount of heals that you can do, and this pool will recharge on a short or long rest. It's basically kind of like a different version of Healing Light. With this subclass, you also get the Sacred Flame cantrip, which, let's be honest, it kind of sucks unless the enemy is prone, and the Light cantrip, which can be good to put on your Hexblade's weapons so they can see better in the dark. There's one more thing I want to talk about at level 1, and then we'll move on to 2, 3, and 4, and that is the Great Old One now has a subclass special feature, while before it didn't have anything. And it made the Great Old One a hard pick over the Fiend, because the Fiend gets Dark One's Blessing while the Great Old One didn't get anything. With this mod, you get Awakened Mind, which basically makes it so your alien knowledge gives you the ability to touch the minds of other creatures, and entering this telepathic state allows you to avoid incoming attacks by increasing your armor class by 2. And on top of that, if you get hit by a melee attack, that attacker will take 1d4 psychic damage. So this subclass special feature makes the Great Old One now a great pick. I don't know if I would expect this on the game's official release, because this modder did change Awakened Mind a little bit and make it more powerful for this game. I'm sure Larian Studios will have something though when the game officially releases. When you reach level 2, there's really not too much that we get here. All of these subclasses do get the spell called Bane, which is already in the game, and then you get to choose your Eldritch invocations, but there's no new Eldritch invocations to really talk about. But I will quickly mention that if you're playing Hexblade, it can be a really cool combination using the Devil's Sight invocation along with the Darkness spell. All right, on to level 3. So level 3 is an important level for all Warlocks because at this level you get to choose your Pact Boon. And before, we only had access to Pact of the Chain, which gives you the Find Familiar spell along with a couple powerful familiars. And now we have Pact of the Blade and Pact of the Tome. And of course, I'll start off talking about Pact of the Blade. So with Pact of the Blade, you get 2 different actions. You get Bind Pact Weapon, which allows you to transform one magical weapon that you hold into a Pact weapon. And like it says, it only works with magical weapons or weapons that have magical properties. And like I said before, if you want your charisma modifier added to your melee damage rolls as opposed to dexterity or strength, with the Hex Warrior feature, you have to be using a one-handed weapon, but not anymore if you go ahead and choose Pact of the Blade and then bind your two-handed sword or your two-handed weapon as a Pact weapon. Now you can use your charisma modifier for your two-handed sword. The other action is Pact of the Blade, and this allows you to create a Pact weapon in your empty hand. Basically, you're summoning a weapon at the cost of just an action, and you will be proficient with this weapon, which won't help you if you're already playing a Hexblade, because Hexblades have martial weapon proficiency, but any other type of Warlock, you will now be proficient with the weapon that you summon, and you get to choose the form that this melee weapon takes. So if you need bludgeoning damage in a certain situation, or maybe even a utility situation to get through a wall, you can summon a weapon that has bludgeoning damage. Or if you need a weapon for something else, you have the opportunity with Pact of the Blade. It's a really cool Pact Boon. If you choose Pact of the Tome, your patron will give you a grimoire called a Book of Shadows, which you basically just click on it and it summons a book. When you gain this feature, you get to choose 3 cantrips from any class spell list, so you can now have cantrips that are not Warlock cantrips. You can cast these 3 cantrips at will, just like any other cantrip, and if you lose the book or you destroy the book and want to resummon another one, those cantrips will go away, and you can simply choose 3 more or 3 of the same cantrips. Unfortunately, this is not working for me in my game, but it doesn't seem to be an issue for anyone else. So I can't show you, but here's the picture of what it looks like. So if you want to play a Warlock that has access to a wider variety of cantrips, which is sometimes a good idea, choose Pact of the Tome. Also at level 3, we get our subclass specific spells, and we'll start with Bart, our Archfey Warlock. So when you're playing an Archfey Warlock at level 3, you get 2 more spells that you can choose if you want to: Calm Emotions and Phantasmal Force. So Calm Emotions summons a 20-foot radius sphere centered on a point that you choose, and any targets within this sphere will have the Frightened and Charmed status effects dispelled. So if anyone in your party is frightened or charmed, or maybe multiple party members, you cast Calm Emotions, and it will calm them all down and get rid of those negative status effects. It does require concentration and a spell slot. Phantasmal Force: you'll craft an illusion that takes root in the mind of a creature that you can see within range. If the target fails an intelligence saving throw, they'll be convinced that the illusion is real and will have to use their action in an attempt to dispel the illusion. So they basically waste their turn trying to get rid of this illusion, and this can last up to 10 turns if they continue to fail their intelligence saving throws. And additionally, each turn that they fail, they'll also take 1d6 psychic damage. So this can be a pretty good spell, especially if you use it on an enemy that has low intelligence modifier. For the Hexblade, the 2 new spells that we have access to are Blur, which is already in the game, but it's a really good spell, especially if you are constantly being attacked like a Hexblade likely is, and Branding Smite, which is a level 2 evocation spell. It deals 2d6 radiant damage on top of your weapon's regular damage, and the enemy that you affect cannot become invisible until the spell ends. So this is another Smite, just like Wrathful Smite, but now we're talking level 2 with radiant damage, just that extra damage that you get on top of your melee attack. Combine it with Hex, and you're doing a lot of damage for a single melee strike. For the Celestial Warlock at level 3, the 2 new spells that you get access to are Flaming Sphere and, yes, Lesser Restoration. So Flaming Sphere is already in the game. It's a druid spell. It summons that ball of flames ball. It's a flaming sphere. And also Lesser Restoration removes 1 disease or condition. Not going to talk about them because they're already in the game. Now let's move on to the final level, level 4. But now that I think about it, there's really not much to talk about with level 4. You get the ability score improvement, and most warlocks will bump their charisma up to 18 for that +4 modifier. Or you can take a feat, and if you're playing a Hexblade and you want to use two-handed weapons, you might want to consider taking the Great Weapon Master feat. I did talk a lot about that feat in a recent build guide that I did. I'll put a link to that below in the video description. Also at level 4, you get to choose another warlock level 2 spell to add to your arsenal. All right, let me quickly show you guys the Eldritch Blast visuals, which changes per subclass. So this is the Archfey Eldritch Blast. It's got that really fey looking magical effect, really cool looking. If we go to the Celestial Warlock, we kind of have this divine effect for the Eldritch Blast. And then the Hexblades, I don't have Eldritch Blast on me, so I can't actually show you at this moment. Also with this mod, it comes with new Warlock armor. And as you guys can see, the Hexblade armor is pretty damn badass. It's 13 +2 with your dexterity modifier, which means there is going to be better armor in the game, and you're going to take Lae'zel's ugly Githyanki armor if you want to max out your AC. But the Hexblade robes are just really cool looking, and it gives that that dark Warlock Hexblade vibe. And then we also have some light Warlock armor. I keep pressing the wrong button. And it looks basically the same as that other one. I'm not sure. There might actually be a couple other... Oh yeah, here we go. Here's the Celestial armor. And that obviously represents the Celestial subclass very well. And that'll be it for the expanded Warlock mod video. Shout out to KG Boy for making this incredible mod. It might be the best mod on the Nexus site. I'm not sure. Let me know your recommendations for mods below. And if you like these videos, also please let me know, and I will continue to do some more. There's a lot of content that I can do on mods, which makes me happy to know what I have planned for the future, because many weeks you just have no idea what to do for video ideas. Catch you guys on the next one.